Anybody that goes back in the wilderness, it gives you a feeling of being close to God, and you see that the country and the animals and you can't help but know how special, you know, this world is.
All my years, I've packed in there for 60-some years. Everything that I know, I probably learned most of it in there.
I'm a fourth-generation Montanan. My great-grandparents homesteaded about 8 miles southeast of here. I need to be able to see those mountains out my window when I look out the window in the morning. Just knowing that that wilderness is there and that I'm able to go back there and do the same sorts of things that I have all my life, and they're not going to change, is hugely important to me.
In Montana, and especially as it relates to natural resource management, there's a lot out there that we can let pull us apart, but there's also a lot that drew us to Montana in the first place and keeps us here and keeps our love for it, which is, you know, wide open spaces, recreational use of wide open spaces, and spending time out there.
Being outside gives you confidence, and it's like really fun.
Wilderness, from what I have learned through my father and my Blackfeet elders, is it was in the wilderness that we have traditionally gone to for the regeneration of self.
Almost all of us live a pretty high-stress life anymore. It's pretty fast-paced. When we go to the wilderness, all that slows down. It's freedom to do things at your own pace without the demands of everyday working environments.
I've always loved wild places, and I hope that it means as much to her as it does to me.
There's nothing like climbing a mountain and, you know, being on top of a ridge somewhere, being up at a lake.
We simply go there and immerse ourselves in its beauty and its grandeur. With the opportunities to re-experience the world on foot or on horseback, as our Blackfeet people traditionally did. Maybe the breathing, maybe the hoof beats, maybe the rustle of a deer or an elk or a bear in the woods from time to time.
I've packed in hundreds of people into the wilderness for hunting. I'm still getting letters from people that I packed in there 40, 50 years ago, still talking about it and still enjoying what they've seen. I don't think of anybody that ever goes in there that regrets going in there.
I like seeing the animals, not just hearing about them or seeing pictures about them. I like seeing them in motion. I feel like I learn how animals live.
Wilderness can never be reproduced. You know, it's taken millions of years for wilderness to develop. Once it's gone, there's no way you can get back to that. There's no way you can bring it back. It's gone for good.
There's lots of areas to do recreation, but there's not so many areas that you can go to enjoy that traditional lifestyle, the hunting, the fishing, the solitude, freedom. Certainly there's lots of places that motorized travel is allowed and acceptable, but there has to be places where it's not.
When you step into a wilderness area, you're really stepping back in time.
The ATVs have only been around for just not even a generation. here. So anyways, it's a type of thing to reflect on and to decide where do we really want to be a generation from now. The water that is locked within the ice and the snow provide the source for clean, pure, crystalline water that has flowed from time immemorial.
I think that's part of the importance of the wilderness, is keeping some places where the water can filter itself and keep the streams clear and nice.
Certainly the water that runs through this place that makes this, you know, a little oasis in a dryland desert, most of it from the wilderness. It's livelihood to a whole lot of farmers.
Working with a lot of ranchers and farmers helped show me that agriculture and wilderness, they're not mutually exclusive.
I've ranched next to it, and I've raised horses and I've raised cattle, and of course we've grazed our horses in the wilderness area. I'm glad that we're able to graze our horses when we pack people in there.
The Wilderness Act does allow cattle grazing, and that grazing component is an important component economically. It really doesn't harm those wilderness values. You can have both.
The intent of the Forest Service was always a multiple use of our wild lands, and wilderness is a very important use.
There's a lot of areas, you know, that you can use for logging and not affect wilderness areas. A lot of wilderness areas aren't great for, you know, timber use. They're not very good cattle forage.
It might be valuable to get logs and to get minerals from the forest, but it's also valuable to have wildernesses. Like, if this tree was getting taken, it wouldn't have perfect places for people to just stop and rest and catch their breath. And
the economy of these small towns along the front is unbelievably wrapped around wilderness. People want to see wilderness, and there's just a huge influx of money.
I think it's our responsibility as Montanans to work on keeping that land and that wild character, and protecting the land that still holds those wilderness characteristics, and working on the rest of the forest in a multiple use framework.
It's a misconception to think that anything's being created. That's not true. It's actually just protecting what we have, or a piece of what we have.
Just as little as 100 years ago, most of Montana was still wild and undeveloped. Today, our remaining unprotected wild country is shrinking fast. The members of the Montana Wilderness Association invite all Montanans to join us in working with communities to protect some of these special wild places.
We have the responsibility to caretake what's left of our wilderness Eden.
I think it's good that we keep these places able to live.
People who are helping to conserve wilderness are going to have a huge impact on me, because, you know, as time goes on, you know, areas get more and more developed, and by saving these areas, they'll still be there when I'm older. They'll still be there for my family, for my kids.
We need to preserve these old things that were here before we came, and let's keep them just the same way so that people can enjoy it.